How's that? That good? Right. Okay.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me come.
Do you want to just tell us who you are and how long you've watched professional wrestling?
Yeah, sure. My name's Steve, aka Just Stone, and I've been watching professional wrestling since 1999.
26 years. That's quite a long time. Would you regard yourself as a real expert then in the field of discussing professional wrestling?
I'd probably say I'm not really a mark for it. Like now, I sort of just casually watch it in the background with life going on, responsibilities, and that I can't watch it as like with the dedication that I once had. Obviously, when I first started watching professional wrestling back all those years ago, I watched it. I'd probably say religiously. I watched all like the small shows and everything like that. But now I'd like to think that I have somewhat of a well-grounded mindset and opinion on the product.
When you say the product, what do you mean?
Yeah, I should probably point out, so like when I talk about professional wrestling, I'm mainly talking about WWE. I've dabbled a bit here and there in AEW. I did watch TNA fairly often at one point in my life, but WWE is what I started with, or WWF back in the day. And now it's just so sort of available now with it all being on Netflix, and that's the one I've just stuck with really. That's about the only one I make time for, or I say make time, but I sort of just have it in the background. It's the most easily accessible product to watch, to be honest.
What made you fall in love with professional wrestling all those years ago?
Well, I was 11 years old at the time. At that sort of stage in life, you're fairly impressionable. When I was at school, a lot of the boys used to talk about wrestling quite often, and it was never really my thing. So, like, when I actually started watching, I was in year 6 in primary school, and yeah, the years before that, people would talk about it, but I just wasn't interested in it. However, just one time randomly, like I say, in 1999, I turned on Sky Sports because we had cable TV back then, and all the wrestling shows used to be on Sky Sports at the time. We were fairly lucky in that point. And it was fully loaded 1999, so the main event that year was going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker in a first blood match. And I, like I think many others, just sort of connected with Stone Cold. He was such a badass. He didn't give a crap about the rules, things like that. And you sort of live vicariously through some of these characters. I think it was probably like that during the 80s and the golden era and all that sort of thing. But for me, it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the one that got me into it, to be honest. I'd still rate him as, my favorite today. So yeah, going into that, I probably didn't have the full backstory, but I had such a connection with it. It was just so cool. So the story was that Stone Cold and The Undertaker were going to fight. If Stone Cold had lost, he was the WWF champion at the time. If he'd lost, he would never be able to challenge for the WWF title again. He had this ongoing rivalry with Vince McMahon. And if The Undertaker lost, who was representing Vince McMahon, Vince would have to disappear off WWF TV entirely. So yeah, like the whole build up to the match itself, like it was just so, it hooked you in, I think is probably the best phrase to say, because like the evening started off on Sunday Night Heat, which was like, the sort of little pre-show beforehand. The Undertaker attacked Stone Cold and busted him open, obviously giving him a disadvantage, giving Stone Cold the disadvantage going into the match because it was a first blood match. Whoever bleeds first loses. And later on in the evening, Stone Cold got his revenge and attacked The Undertaker and busted him open. So both of them were going into it sort of on neutral ground. Neither one of them really had the advantage. So it's like throughout the night, it built up to the main event, which was probably eagerly anticipated already because you had such cool characters. So yeah, I was hooked from then on in. Like, I was sold on the idea of Stone Cold being the badass that, he could beat up your boss or whatever, but in school you want to be cool, you want to be like seen as like the cool kid or whatever. It was just so awesome. But I mean, if you compare that to today, in my opinion, like there's no there's no real hook, like building up to a PLE as they call it now, not even a pay-per-view, which sounds weird in my opinion. The two guys maybe just have like a couple of promos in the weeks leading up to it. They might have one or two like small confrontations, and it's so predictable now. Like the heel gets the advantage building up to the PLE, then at the PLE the babyface wins. It's just, you know, nothing to want to make you really come back for the next show.
But you do tune in for the next show, don't you?
Yeah, I do. You know, like, it sounds hypocritical, but like I suppose my passion for it is still there. You know, like I said, I don't watch it as often now, but I'm still interested in it. I'm kind of hoping that one day they're going to sort of shut me up and put on a good show, nice surprises. But it's because as well, like it's just so easily accessible. You know, pretty much everyone's got Netflix these days. It's fairly cheap. And for the UK at least, like pretty much almost everything is on Netflix. And it's like, you might as well just put it on. It's there, it's in good quality. Why not?
So you've alluded to Stone Cold Steve Austin being your favourite talent when you started watching WWF or WWE. Do you have a favourite wrestler now?
If I had to say a favourite wrestler now from like the current pool of talent, I'd probably say John Cena. Now that's kind of a surprise.
Why do you say that? It's a surprise to say John Cena now.
Like, you know, for me, it's a bit of a surprise because I was one of those guys when John Cena was on his like, you know, major run and then he just kept on winning. Like it was good at first. I was totally a fan of John Cena going into WrestleMania 21 when he first won his, you know, first WWE title against JBL. I was so happy. The match was short from what I can remember, but I was so pleased, and like it was, you know, someone new up and coming. John Cena was pretty cool. I was very happy, but then, you know, he just went on that streak where he just kept on winning and winning and winning. I suppose, of course, they're trying to build up their new superstar, but it just got a little stale. And, you know, I became one of those people that, you know, I loved it if John Cena lost, which was few and far between. So yeah, like just for me to say John Cena now is a surprise. But the reason I do say John Cena is because with the wrestlers or talent that we currently have, it's just the same old stuff. You know, it's all scripted. You know, and it's just usually the same sort of like, you know, the baby face just says the stuff to build himself up, make a little pop connection with the crowd, as you know, cheap pops and all that stuff. But John Cena, since he's been back in this final retirement year, like, you know, it's all coming to an end at some point. But some of his promos, I feel, have been somewhat heartfelt. Even when he had his very poor heel turn earlier in the year, I still think some of those promos were good. Like, it felt like going into the stuff he had with Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was trying to, you know, poke the bear, but John Cena at the time was very calm about it. His promos, sorry, just like sort of hit certain truths. I think I connected with it because that's what I feel. And I was kind of hoping it would build up to like a nice big crescendo, perhaps with Cody turning heel or something like that, making him realize, you know, he's not as great as they make him up to be. But then they just nixed all that, turned Cena babyface again. And here we are, you know, at this current stage in time. But yeah, I think that John Cena's promos, you know, maybe there's a bit of bias there because I know it's, you know, building up to a crescendo where he's just going to retire. But yeah, I've enjoyed his promo work, and I actually have looked forward to, you know, that's another thing, when they announce that people are going to appear on the show, and his promos have been pretty good.
What do you think a big problem with the product is today?
That's somewhat of an interesting question. I mean, I suppose the obvious answer is to blame the ones in charge, TKO and, you know, Triple H, who makes the creative decisions. But I kind of feel like some of the blame has to fall on the fans as well.
When you say the fans, do you mean the fans could be to blame for what is presented on the shows?
Yeah, like, I kind of feel like the fans don't really know what they want. Like, you're never going to sort of fully please everyone, are you? You're always going to have your critics. So, like, with the fans that have the money or, you know, want to spend the silly money, in my opinion, to go to the shows, I mean, think about it. If you're somewhere, like, even if you go to a concert, like, if you sort of the people that are popular to give you that thrill, you're going to enjoy it. So like when someone's at a show, if they bring out the big stars, like, you know, with star power, let's say, I'll just put John Cena in there, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, all those sort of people, CM Punk. Of course, you're going to have a bit of an adrenaline rush. And, you know, with the way things are today, camera phones being trendy on social media, everyone's going to film it. They're going to go crazy over it. But like, as a casual fan or just a fan watching at home where you don't get to feel that adrenaline rush, like the story and the content is pretty bad in my opinion. So like to sort of say that the fans are responsible for some of the poor content in my opinion is because like, you know, the people who can afford to go to these shows, pay ridiculous money for the tickets, they're going to go, they're going to be pleased because it's an experience for them. But like, the people at home watching, you know, who watch it more for like the actual story. Sorry, you see all these memes about I watch wrestling for the story and all that stuff. Yeah, who actually watch it, you know, weekly for the story and that. It's just not, it's not good. And I think I'm one of those people. But, you know, like, yeah, I think one of the ways to counteract this would be just don't go to the shows, perhaps. But people, like in my opinion, people want to be part of this, you know, happiness. They want that rush. So of course they're still going to go to it.
Would you say you're part of that problem as a fan?
I'm a fan, but I don't go to the shows. I can't afford it.
But you're still a fan if you continue to watch it.
Well, are we done?